The Eternal Series Radio presents The Nephelium, Book 1 of the Eternal Series by author Nathan Parks, copyright 2013, read by author Nathan Parks. Chapter 6. Tonight you have seen more than you probably can handle, but there's more things that I'd like to show you, if you're up to it, Ariok offered. Sure, Mr. Ariok. Well, then follow me, he stated as he placed down his glass of water and headed out of the office. Drake, there's so much more than what you mortals can understand. Humanity comes to us seeking power and control, and yet you do not even fully understand what all you are looking for. Drake followed like a helpless puppy upon a limp leash, whipped into submission, terrified to go and terrified to stay. What are you? He asked. What am I? I thought you already knew that. I thought the reason you started down this path of being a familiar is because you sought after that which you thought was only found in cheap fantasy novels. Drake didn't know what to say or even think. He knew Ariok was right, but what he didn't know was if he really had thought this all through. Was all this promised power for real? Or was he just now discovering it all to be a facade of great proportion that was being played out for fun and intimidation? Ariok opened a large, carved wooden door at the end of a carpeted hallway. The door had a strange symbol carved upon it. It was that of a snake, uncoiling, ready to strike at an ancient sun. There seemed to be a primeval feeling about it, the kind of feeling that emerges when someone comes close to something in a museum that they realize demands respect due to the antiquity of its life and the stories that it could tell. The Clan Adremalech, Ariok stated as he nodded at the heavy wooden door. That is our clan crest, and is one that you will embrace if you wish to continue as a familiar. He continued with a voice that seemed respectful, prideful, and yet with a hint of sarcasm. So it's real. It came almost as a whisper, but yet as a statement of awareness. All the myths, legends, and stories to scare children, they're all true? To which ones are you referring? Ariok had a cunning smile upon his face as his fingers traced the carving in the door. You're a vampire, Drake half asked and half stated the words. Ariok never could stop himself from snickering at this statement whenever a mortal would allow such words to tumble from their mouth. An immortal of power, darkness, and strength? Yes. Vampire? Not quite. Or at least not the way you're thinking right now. Ariok opened the door and passed through. Drake followed. They entered a staircase that wound downward, several stairs. It smelled of incense and melting wax, and the walls were covered in crushed red velvet drapes. Then, who are you? Drake was so confused and still felt trapped. If you are not a vampire, then what do you mean when you talk about a clan? And who is Adremalech? What does that crest symbolize? Now you seem to find your courage to ask a lot of questions. But that is fine, because that is why I'm bringing you down here. Drake, what do you know about what you call the myths and legends of vampires? Well, I know about Dracula and how vampires can't take the light and how they suck the blood from people. So in other words, you know the normal rhetoric of what everyone and their brothers know. Yes, I guess you could say that. What if I told you that all of that is true, but not true? That everything you believed you knew about myths has a factual basis to it, and that you have now become part of it all. Well, sir, after tonight, I'd have to say I believe, but I guess I still don't understand, Drake answered. By this time, they had gone down several flights of stairs, and Drake could only conclude that they were now underneath the club, and maybe underneath some other city buildings. The stairs ended in a large cavern of a room that could have been anything from a cave, a castle throne room, or a catacomb. Arioch walked toward the center of the candle-lit chamber, and in a grandeur of conquest, threw his head back, stretched his arms out in a wide arc, and laughed loudly as he slowly circled around. Drake, welcome to the soon-to-be throne room of a new Babylon. Welcome to the nest. As the words rang out with authority in his voice, leathery wings unfurled from his back in an inky black rush, and he rose up into the air in a mockery of a crucifix. What you thought you knew is not what you need to know, and what you need to know will be power beyond anything you could comprehend. Drake could say nothing. Drake knew that there was no turning back or returning to a former knowledge, or lack thereof. It was kind of like opening a Christmas present before Christmas and realizing that it wasn't going to be a surprise anymore, or as if someone revealed the end of a movie that another hadn't seen yet. It couldn't be changed back to before the revelation. A person couldn't go back in time to change his choice. At the rise of Arioch's body and voice, the chamber had ignited in a rush of light. Torches all around and upon the walls lit with flames, revealing even more of the ancient-style catacomb, or throne room as Arioch referred to it. It reminded Drake of something one would see if they went to a museum display of ancient Egypt. Symbols like that on the door seemed to give an ancient pictorial of dark figures in bloody battles and conquests. What is this, Arioch? Strangely enough, Drake was gaining an unusual flow of strength and confidence from the fear that clung in his throat. You show me pyrotechnics and what could be a movie set? The only thing that sets it apart is your appearance. Arioch descended, and as his feet touched the floor once again, his leathery wings seemed to grow invisible, although an evil cloud of darkness seemed to hover around him. He was basking in this moment. You are standing in what will be the birthplace of a new supernatural force, a race that will rise and claim authority over mankind and, ultimately, the universe. I am one of the forsaken, a fallen, or what some of the religious persuasion may call a demon, and yet many would relate to me more as a mythological vampire. I have shown this to you tonight because I need you to help me and this clan. You are only one of many familiars that we have chosen, but each of you will play vital roles, and, in return, we will offer you power, strength, and authority. Over your small lifetime, you have been laughed at, scoffed at, put out, and put down. Am I correct? Drake didn't answer immediately. As if in deep thought, Drake began walking around the chamber, his fingers tracing the pictures etched into the wall and following the storyline the carvings told. He didn't understand it all, but much of it was not hard to interpret. You know I have been, Arioch, but what makes you think I need you to change that? What makes you believe I need you, or even that I want to be a part of this? You are mortal. So? I could take your life even now, and it would all be over for you, Arioch hissed, then continued in a softer tone. Or you could become literally part of this clan and experience wealth and power beyond anything you could imagine. As his words ended, his voice had risen into a crescendo as he raised his arms upward and outward in a display of arrogance. How are you able to give me all this? All I see is a club, and now this underground chamber. Drake's voice was growing stronger with confidence. If he did choose what Arioch offered, he wanted to display the same qualities Arioch emanated, though in a subtler fashion. He wanted Arioch to believe he was worth Arioch's attention. He wanted to show Arioch strength, a strength he had never felt before. Arioch scoffed. Do you really think this is all there is? You mortals always see only what is in front of you. And if you can't see it, then you don't believe it. That has always been your downfall. Always. Then prove it to me. Arioch shook his head in distaste. In time. But Jah is not the only one who demands faith. If you're willing to take another step deeper into the world of the fallen, then you will know things that most men do not. And you will become part of something that reaches back to the dawn of time and will only grow stronger. The strength and confidence that Drake had felt sweeping over his body had fully taken hold now. What he could not see were the soul slayers that were moving into the window of his spirit that was being opened through the emotionally charged words given by Arioch. It was a dance of possession that had become the art form of the fallen, a draining of the life's blood. He was being possessed without even having knowledge of it. Drake looked up at Arioch and saw before him no longer a being to be feared, but instead one to be respected and followed. I will follow you, my lord. I have faith you will do as you have spoken. You have my allegiance and servanthood. Two soul slayers tapped into the base of his spinal cord and unlocked the door to his conscience and took control. He was no longer just a familiar, but he had become part of the clan as much as a living mortal could be. He was now Drake of the Clan Adremalech. His knowledge of what that entailed would come later. He didn't need to know the full history, nor would he be able to comprehend the future at this time.